Okay, welcome everybody. Thanks for being here. We're going to go ahead and open up public comment. Views expressed by individuals during public comment do not necessarily reflect the views of the city of Fremont, have not been verified for accuracy by the city. As a reminder, city council and staff are not permitted to respond to comments or questions during public comment period. In accordance with Municipal Code Section 2-103, public comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person, shall not contain topics included on this evening's agenda. There's also comment cards in the back. And so we'll have Larry Marvin.
Good evening. I got my Christmas decorations. My name is Larry Marvin, 1945 Morningside Road, apartment 124, Fremont, Nebraska. And I'm here about double standards. And I have a couple books. One is the Funniest Excuses book ever. And the other one is Bringing About the Best in Others. So I'm here tonight to bring out the best in every one of you, because I'm here to fire you. Now, 2 months ago when I was here, I went in and used the bathroom. I had a little emergency. And so when I got up, I couldn't get up. And there were no handy bars or grab bars, whatever you call in there. So I came in and I told the city attorney, that this was not ADA acceptable here. And then Mr. Shanahan interrupted me and he said, "They're working on it." And so I looked him right in the eyes and said, "You're working on it?" And he said, "Yes." And so he disrupted my official report to have the city attorney tell you. So if the city attorney did not tell you that that's not acceptable, then both the city attorney and Mr. Shanahan need to be put on temporary suspension from duty without pay until you get it AD acceptable. And one of the reasons why is the double standards. In 1976, I bought my building on Main Street, and our Fremont City fire chief told me that if I allowed the Oddfellows and the Rebeccas to meet in that basement, he was going to put me in jail because it wasn't up to life safety or whatever your codes are. And so I ran to one of the 4 hardware stores and got a padlock and hasp, and I padlocked it on there. And then guess what? I was paying rent to this building, Equitable Savings Bank, for a meeting room in this building someplace. So that lasted 1.5 years or whatever it was. The manager here was Marvin Wellstedt, and my partner was Daniel Wellstedt Sr., uncle and nephew. And so the uncle has to obey the laws, but the nephew doesn't, because he owned this building and that room is not AD acceptable. And I haven't toured the rest of the restaurants or the women's or whatever, but you people have probably had this building for 30 years or whatever. So you have not, since I reported it to the attorney, it's been basically 2 months. You know, you're a week early right now, but it was seven weeks that you've had. It'll take me 15 minutes to get from here over to the Business by Baker's to buy that grab bar for $24, and it has the screws right in it. Bring it back. That's 30 minutes, and 5 minutes to buy it. 35 minutes at $24, and you're working on it. I don't think you're working very hard. That door fits me, it fits you, and it fits our employees. And so
I'll have to ask you to wrap it up.
Okay, so anyway, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for serving, but I want a better job out of it. And I do want to bring out the best in everybody. Thank you.
Ron Block.
Ron Block, 1500 West Military in Fremont, Nebraska. I'm up here. I don't want to fire anybody. I just want to make things easier for everybody. I've been up on the 3rd floor approximately 16 times for a building permit for a square box, 60 by 120. I built 12 of these buildings exactly the same. We are now required to put bathrooms in these buildings. This building's got no floor, no heat, no utilities. These buildings are used for less than 5 minutes per visit when our employees use it. All 12 of these buildings are vacant 6 months out of the year. I was told by Mark, our building inspector, that it would take months to get a meeting of the Building Code Appeals Board, who hasn't met for years, to start the ball rolling to modify the building codes. He stated also that he has several items that need to be addressed also. So my question is, so what steps do we need to make to have a meeting of the Building Code Board to consider the changes for everyone's benefit? As everyone knows, in building construction, 1 + 1 does not add up to 2. All the time, there's exceptions. We need to be more flexible to our taxpayers and our contractors. Just because it says in the book to jump off a cliff, do you comply? Common sense still has a place in Fremont, Nebraska. And I've got a copy for everybody to look at for the plumbing codes that I'm talking.
Can hand to our attorney, Ron, and she'll get it to everybody. Okay.
Attorney,
Yeah.
you can't receive items into the record.
Thank you.
That's it.
Brad Yerger, 2318 East Fifth Street. Tonight, I'd like to bring a few things to your attention. To start with, I have a topic on the library. Given the many issues that have been brought to council in the past, perhaps this council should advocate that the library staff moves some of the controversial books to a new separate section of the library, which will be reopened in a couple of months. I believe that section should be, and I won't title it, you can figure it out for yourself, but it probably ought to include the words challenged, if not many other words. And it ought to be under glass shields and library controlled access. If you're going to keep the books in the library, you should at least protect the children from those books. Walmart and other places put a lot of things under glass anymore. I encourage you to think about whether that could be done with some of the more controversial books that have been subject to question by members of the public. Also, February will be another period where you get a report from the library. Included in it will be the Child Internet Protection Act certification of the filtering that goes on relative to digital access onto the website and their electronic equipment at the library. I would encourage you as a council, as a part of the grand opening, to require the library to do a filtering demonstration. Show the public that filtering works. You can put a lot of this to rest if you can prove that the filtering you say and testify to with your certification is actually occurring. Then there's the subject of lawyer fees. On average, the city of Fremont, which is about 27,000 residents, pays approximately $20,000 every 2 weeks for almost $500,000 a year for legal advice. Are the citizens getting what they pay for? Has the council thought about bringing back a city attorney position? I think you should. Would the city be able to get better representation for less money? You should look into it. Then there's the complaint that was brought by the Brunmeyers about noise and city code violations. Could one of you council members get a status update of both the noise and the public code, public comment violation investigation? Public records requests have been unsuccessful as they've been alluded to as being an open investigation claim, and therefore nothing can be provided. Yet this is a 5-minute recap from documented video and the review of a couple city code sections. That really can't require very much legal investigatory time. It's been months and no action has been afforded to the Brunmeyers. I've been in contact with them. They've asked and they don't know. Then I would like to talk just briefly about training. Does anyone believe that council members should be trained before they take their seat? In prior administrations, this was what happened. You got voted in as an appointment approved. You waited till you got trained and took your oath at the next meeting. We've made now 3 appointments to city council seats. Training and oath have been given in advance, and voting by members being seated has occurred before they've even been introduced to city staff and or received training on city rules, open meetings law, a variety of things that you get when you go through indoctrination training. And I know you all eventually get it. You should be required to get it before you take your seat and start voting. Thank you.
Glenn Kai.
Well, I'm here to say that I truly hope you will continue the open comment to be allowed at the last meeting of the month of the city council. The public should have a right to speak about concerns of the city. And yes, the public comment time should be shown on the live stream of the council meetings also. It is posted as being previous to the scheduled council meeting, just as other meetings you schedule ahead of a council meeting, so it should be all available on the video. Yes, the understanding is that the council cannot respond at that time to anything brought to your attention, but it has proven to be beneficial on some subjects, maybe not so much on other things that should be considered. One thing my wife and I have experienced is no response from anyone on comments made on the comment cards that are supposed to be over there. Other people share the same feelings. Are those cards even looked at or followed up on? Or are they just thrown away and just more excess garbage left over from the meetings? We really don't see that there's any common ground of the 8 council members. They all seem to have their own agendas and don't confer about anything with each other. And for sure, we never see or hear any discussion on an agenda item when you have the opportunity to ask questions as a council. And when there is a public comment allowed on an agenda item, and there may be a question, a council member should be picking up on that and get an answer at that moment. We believe that in our eyes, all 8 council members should be available to be aware of concerns of the whole city, not just their wards. Sure, we should get in touch with our ward representatives if it's concerning something immediately in their area. But overall, we thought the whole council should have consideration for the city as a whole. You have been elected for the position or chosen by the mayor to serve the public, so we believe you should be able to come forth with answers for the concerns brought forward. Body language tells a whole lot about speaking, and facing all of you can bring across a bad impression and thoughts that you don't really care to be bothered. Thank you.
Steve Ray, 1445 North Irving Street. I went out to Washington Heights today. I got a guy I drive with from Dillon's that he's been complaining about, I think it was like in June, when the streets, they said them apartments, there's so many people there, they block a couple of them streets almost. And they were gonna paint some red paint on around the mailboxes and I don't know, possibly put up some signs. And he said he still can't get around part of the time. So I went out there to see what it was like. I just wonder if something can't be done. At the corner of Dakota and Palmer, Palmer makes a slight curve there and Dakota comes out. People park clear back to that very street and you can't see with that park there. They need to be kept up farther, kind of to the west, so that with a sign not to park back farther or something so you can see. Also, it's very difficult to make that corner with a car parked that close, and especially if there's a car parked on the other side of the street. There are signs there for snow emergency, no parking from like October to April or something like that. And I was out there today, there was some cars parked there anyway. So I just like to see something done. So, and he has a trailer that he pulls a lot of times in the summer for a race car. And he just can't make the corner and other people complain. And I was out there one other time and that's both them streets get lined with a lot of cars parking on both sides just because the apartments don't have anywhere to park. So I don't know what you can do, but I need it kind of looked into. The other thing is I went out to Jack Sutton Drive. I haven't seen anything about the sidewalks. And I know I said something before and I was in contact with some people. My representative said he checked with them the last time. He got no comment from the city exactly. He was going to check with them again. I haven't checked with him, but I find it unacceptable that was such a safety issue in June or July when you passed that to have sidewalks put in out there. And I've heard the comment, well, we have to check the drainage and the slope. Aren't those lots all platted out and do drainage studies and stuff before that's all platted? I see no excuse. And I realize the street department's busy. Maybe instead of putting more in economic development, we should be putting more money to his department so that he can get the work done that was implied by the council to get done. And the way I read the ordinance and the code is after they're notified, they got 30 days to get that done or the city can put it in and charge them. I don't understand why there hasn't been a thing done on it. And I did hear it was they've been pretty busy, but I don't think that's an excuse. It's almost 5.5, 6 months later and they haven't done anything yet. So I think the council needs to be looking into those kind of things. And that's why we have open comment part of the time. That was the way it was set up. To my understanding, people do bring things to you in open comment and you're to look into it and kind of give them feedback. And to my knowledge, nobody ever gets any feedback from you about it.
Gene.
My name is Gene Schultz. I live at 2306 Gene Drive, Fremont. When I got home on the night of November 28th, I wanted to listen to parts of the council meeting that I couldn't hear while sitting right here in the room. I found that the video was posted on YouTube as always, but the public comments were missing. Naturally, due to recent events, I thought the worst, that it was left out on purpose. I sent an email to Tyler to see what happened, and he was able to post the audio version of the public comments. Thanks to Tyler for doing that. Later, the video was also updated. Then on December 16th, my suspicions were confirmed in a letter to the editor by Mark Jensen. Mark spilled the beans that the city of Fremont made an administrative decision to not broadcast the public comment period that takes place before the last council meeting of each month. But what was so offensive that the public comments had to be censored? I had to go back and listen. Was it the delayed tribute to Glenn Ellis? Or are there some things that are just above criticism? You'll have to listen to find out. I rely on the YouTube video when I can't hear what was said while in attendance at the meeting. It's happened tonight already. I can go home and replay it on YouTube where the sound quality is usually better, for me anyway. I view the YouTube video of the happenings at the city council meeting as a public service for the handicapped, for those too busy to attend in person, for those that are working and can't attend, for those that have to stay at home with the kids, and for those that don't have transportation to make it to City Hall. I guess in the days ahead, we'll have to see if the city council is about service to the public or service to the whims of the council or others. Thank you.
Thanks, Rich. Is Troy here? Yeah, I'll sign them. Yep. Okay, welcome everybody. Time is 7 o'clock. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'll go ahead and open up the city council regular meeting. The time is 7 o'clock. The Opens Meeting Act is posted on the rear wall next to the agendas. This time we'll have roll call.
Please vote for roll call. Five council members are present, Mayor.
All right, Next is mayor's comments. As you can see, I'm not wearing a tie tonight. We're just wanted to kind of celebrate the Christmas season, and I just want to say thank you to all of our staff at the city for all their hard work this year. It's been a very busy year and a lot that we have accomplished, and just also to our great people in our community. I mean, we are nothing up here without our people that make it happen every single day. And I really believe our job is to help our people be successful and support them and be there. And so it's been a privilege for me this year to just be able to see our community thrive and for us to be a part of that. That's really what we're here to do. We're here to serve. And I just, on behalf of myself as mayor and the council, we just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And, it's okay to sometimes not take ourselves too seriously, even though what we do is important. Yeah, just want to wish you all a Merry Christmas. And thank you for being here. Speaking about our people, we have 5 service awards for December that we would like to honor. First, I'd like to honor Jason Schreck, 5 years of service. Jason has been with the city as a firefighter, EMT paramedic since 2018. I want to thank Jason. Next, we have Joe Murphy, 20 years of service. Joe's been with the Department of Utilities as a senior electrical technician since 2003. I thank Joe Murphy for 20 years of service. With us today, we have Deb Wright, 5 years of service. Deb has been with the city as a dispatcher since 2008. Deb, would you come up and be recognized for 5 years of service? Also with us today, celebrating 10 years of service is Nate Royak. Nate started with the Department of Utilities as a senior engineering associate in 2013. Then he was promoted to assistant director of electrical engineering in 2022. Nate is here. Would you come and accept your award for 10 years of service? And finally, we have celebrating 15 years of service, Troy Shaben. Troy started with the Department of Utilities as an operations environmental employee in 2008. Then he was promoted to assistant general utility manager in 2012. And Troy is here. Congratulations, Troy, 15 years of service. Well deserved. Want to thank all 5 of these individuals for their hard work and dedication, commitment to the city of Fremont. All right, that's all I have for comments. We'll move on to item 1 on the agenda as a motion to adopt the current agenda for the December 21st, 2023 regular meeting. Councilman Jensen.
I'll make the motion to adopt the current agenda.
Okay, Councilman Horner.
I'll second.
Okay. Cast your votes.
Yes, 5-0, Mayor.
All right, now moving on to the consent agenda. All items in the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the city council, will be enacted by one motion. There'll be no separate discussion of these items unless the council member or a citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda by council or staff? Okay, any items to be removed from the public from the consent agenda? Didn't show up.
We remove item number 3, please.
Are there any other items? Okay, if seeing no other items, I would take a motion to approve the consent agenda items 2, 4 through 8. Councilman Sukram,
Motion?
Councilwoman Ganem,
Second.
cast your votes.
Motion carries 5-0, Mayor.
Item 3 is a receive the November 2023 animal reports. Go ahead.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council, Jody Sanders, City Administrator. The animal reports are attached. Maybe it's the headband. Excuse me, but the reports that you see are just the actual activity that happened during the month of November. Forever Homes is still working on a reconciliation. They've gone through their records and they go back all the way to, I believe, April. And so hopefully in the January meeting, but I didn't want to commit to that because we are waiting for them to get to the point where they can report the summary reports that Councilmember Von Baron specifically asked for. We can't provide those because it's confusing with the balance carried forward. You know, if you've got errors in your opening number, you're going to end up with errors at the ending number. And that was the question that was asked. So I'll take any questions.
Okay. Questions? Comments from the public on this item?
Right, 323 West Fifth Street. I really appreciate you guys working on this, but wanted to make a suggestion on the animal IDs. Those would be much better used as a microchip number. However, even November, the numbers still don't add up. Now this month, we're 6 animals additional than what are recorded. So we still don't have any reports from them that are accurate numbers. Also, just giving you a little background on that, the length of stay for cats in a shelter is an average of 55 days. Length of stay for dogs is about 42 days. We have, if you read the reports, we have an average of, well, just of the more dogs that have been in there for a long time, of 837 days for some dogs. And some cats, that one was up to 954 days that they've been in that shelter. That causes isolation, that causes depression. That's not fair to any animal. So I just want you guys to take a look into that. And it's not that we want to complain up here and be specific. It's just that, you don't hear any problems anymore about DCHS. That's because it's not our tax dollars, but it really is concerning that there are some animals that have been up there for over 1,000 days. And they have, even in this report, one cat was held for 3 months on medical before it was euthanized. A dog was held for 4 months on medical before it was euthanized. Yet a cat was held for 7 days and euthanized for behavior. Doesn't make sense. That should definitely be the other way around. Where euthanize a lot quicker for medical reasons rather than hold them. And then a lot of times the behavior issues are because they're in a shelter. And I know that the amount that we pay them of $20,000 a month, some of it is based upon how many animals are in their care. Well, you got animals in here that are part of police investigations that have been over for a year now, but yet they're still in there, making it look like to you guys that there's a daily fee or something per animal when shouldn't be that way. So thank you.
Anybody else here to speak on this item? Okay. Any additional comments from council on this? There are none. I'd take a motion to receive the annual reports. Councilwoman Ganem,
I move to receive the animal report.
Councilman Sukram,
I will second.
cast your votes.
The motion carries 5-0, Mayor.
Moving on to unfinished business is item 9 and ordinance 5665 for a change of zone from GI General Industrial to R Rural on property generally located on the south side of River Road on east of the Burlington Northern Railroad tracks in sections 25 and 36, all located in Township 17 North, Range 8 East of the 8th PM, Dodge County, Nebraska. This would be second reading.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council, Jody Sanders, City Administrator. But I do have Jennifer on the phone here. She's joining us via Zoom this evening because this was the second reading of the item, but I'll let her go ahead and talk about it. Go ahead, Jennifer. Jennifer? I apologize. I need to redial. Hi, Jennifer, sorry. If you want to go ahead. Jennifer?
Are you hearing me okay, Jody?
Now we can, yes.
Okay. This is the second reading from R Rural to GI, or from GI General Industrial to R Rural. It is for the Hills Farm Lake preliminary plat. It's an area that was changed to industrial for the excavation. However, excavation is allowed in the R Rural district. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for staff on this? Again, this is second reading. Okay. Councilman Horner.
Yeah, Jennifer, there was a question asked last time on this about the ingress and egress in the development, and has that ever, did anyone ever bring that up as a concern in the planning? It looks like it was kind of went through the planning commission and you know, it's all been talked about and everything, but is that something of concern? Is that something that we've got to be worried about?
Well, the preliminary plat was approved at the last meeting. This is just the change of zone for that L-shaped area. So it doesn't relate to ingress or egress of the area that is being platted. However, no. There was no concern raised about ingress or egress. We talked with both the fire chief and the police chief, and they had no concerns about the ingress or egress either. It will be annexed into the city as it's final platted, so it will fall under the police and the Fremont Fire Department and not the sheriff or the rural fire department.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Anybody here to speak on this item?
Glenn Ty, 2550 Deerfield Avenue. I would like to know, how can that be okayed when it's only got one way in and one way out? A couple years ago, the people of Morningside Housing Edition were told by the sitting government of this city that our 2 ways in and 2 ways out of our housing addition was not good enough. And we had to be attached to the new Luther Street South. Also at that time, after said city administrator asked the fire department and the police department for their opinions, after he asked them for their opinions, they said, oh no, that wasn't good enough to have 2 ways in and 2 ways out in our housing addition. And now you turn around and you change all your rules again in 2 years' time and okay them to have 1 way in, 1 way out, no curbs, just a lousy asphalt street. And then you're going to annex them besides? Why can the rules be changed every time somebody with different money comes into this town and wants to do something? Can anybody answer me that? Possibly not. Thank you.
Brad Yerger, 2318 East Fifth Street. I want to applaud you all for your Christmas garb tonight. Made it very festive. I would like to speak to a couple of items on this, and it's not because I have any objection to the subdivision so don't take it that way. Mine concerns go really to the process in general of getting these things accomplished. You'll notice that in the staff report, it indicates that in going from general industrial to rural, we have to change the comprehensive plan and the land use map. Why is that important? Well, while I was on council, there were many of these things that came through, and we established, I thought, but apparently not, that we need to change comprehensive plans and land use maps ahead of rezoning and platting. Specific example of this was for the Sunridge development out on East Military. We actually had to stop the process because they were thinking about putting commercial on the east side of that subdivision, and they hadn't changed the comprehensive plan of the land use map. We screeched to a halt, had to get that done, and then ultimately proceeded with the zoning and platting. For those of you that you were here, I'm sure you remember. So sequentially, that's the kind of thing that should go on here. But you haven't been brought a comprehensive plan land use map yet as a part of this process. I question why. It says later on in the staff report that that particular condition ought to be put into the ordinance that's passed. That is, it should be a conditional ordinance. Yet when I read the ordinance 5665, I find no such condition. That would seem to be at least, an oversight because that shouldn't happen. The other question that I would raise is there are references in the staff report to old and new UDC. You're currently operating under a UDC that's been under review and revision by consultants for several years now, and you've yet to bring it up to pass. So if I was the developer out here, I think I would want to know which UDC are you going to hold me accountable to for my subdivision development? The one that's currently in code or the one that you anticipate putting into code sometime, but you haven't for the last 3 years? Be difficult for them to follow that code when it's not even officially approved by the city of Fremont. If that's what's giving rise to their desire to be rural under the new UDC rural definition rather than the old rural UDC definition. I don't think that's fully explained in the staff report. I hope it's been fully explained to the developer as to what you can and can't do under old code versus new code. But those kinds of things shouldn't be left to question. If there are specifics about that, then maybe those ought to be conditions reflected in the ordinance as well, so that the city and the developer know which set of guidance we're going to be using when developing this subdivision. I too raised the concern with regards to the entry exit point now that that's been brought up, because I specifically recall the city engineer at the time of the Deerfield questioning, saying it would be unethical for the city engineer to say anything but that had to have an open intersection. He was adamant. Got to have the third one, period. They didn't have a choice. They didn't want a cut-through street built into their subdivision, yet they got one. And now we're going to be out here in a floodplain zoning area where potential flooding exists, and you're potentially satisfied with a single entry point, exit and exit for catastrophe purposes. That would seem to be pretty risky. So maybe, I know that's not the zoning issue that's before you tonight. That's really a plating issue. But you need to be taking those things into account when you look at redevelopment plans, zoning and plating of these, and the differences that you have in engineering opinion on these things. That needs to be reconciled. But I hope you would at least modify the ordinance to recognize conditional requirements, as was pointed out in staff, because you don't have the land use map corrections yet. And if in fact you're going to follow new code for this subdivision rather than old code if they start tomorrow, I don't know how you do that when that code's not been implemented. Thank you.
All right, any additional comments from council on this item? Councilwoman Ganem?
I wondered if Jennifer could give us some insight on some of the issues that Mr. Yerger brought up.
Sure. First of all, the land use map was approved at the last meeting, as was the preliminary plat. This issue is just simply the zoning issue and doesn't relate to the plat. The reason why we recommended approval of just one ingress and egress on each lake is because it's a much lower density than the other areas, and it's not connecting to a collector or an arterial street that Luther Road would be. So that's the rationale of recommending approval to that, which was approved last week with the preliminary plat. The land use map and the zoning are not one and the same thing. Showing this as lake and residential in the land use map is talking about the general use of the area and not a specific zoning district. We are coordinating very closely as we work on the UDC update with current and future zoning districts to make sure that things are in compliance. However, the rules that are in place today are our current UDC. So those are the rules that we have to follow through with and enforce.
Go ahead.
And the developer,
Yes.
thank you.
Councilman Jensen?
Just a procedural thing. I've noticed that on our agenda, it says to hold second reading. In the staff report and the recommendation, it says introduce and hold first reading. Is that something we need to clean up before we go any further?
Yeah, we had the first reading on this at the last meeting. The staff report just didn't get updated. Next week would be the third and final reading, or the next meeting would be the third and final reading.
The agenda gave the proper notice at its second reading, despite the staff report saying otherwise, and then her giving the update today. I believe we're fine.
Councilman Ganem, you're still on. Okay, all right. Okay, I know. Are there any other comments from council? If not, I would take a motion. Councilman Horner?
I'll make a motion that we approve for second reading ordinance 565 for a change of zone as stated.
Councilwoman Lathrop?
Second.
Cast your votes for second reading.
Motion carries 5-0, Mayor.
We'll have second reading of ordinance 5665.
An ordinance of the city of Fremont, Nebraska, amending ordinance number 5427 as it pertains to the zoning map to rezone the property generally located south of Hills Farm Road and east of the Burlington Northern Railroad tracks, providing for repeal of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for severability and providing an effective date on second reading.
Take a motion to adjourn. Councilman Jensen,
I will make the motion to adjourn.
Councilwoman Ganem,
I'll second.
cast your votes.
Motion carries 5-0, Mayor.
We are adjourned.